In the Perek Reish Nun Hey, the Rebbe Rashab spoke about that there's three general levels. There's Ibur, Yanika, Moichin, in which he explained at length that Ibur is when there's only a little intellect. Now, yesterday's segment, the beginning of Perek Reish Nun Vav, the Rebbe Rashab explained that Yanika is when there's a revelation of emotion which comes through a grasp and contemplation. And so the Rebbe Rashab says in today's segment, which is pages Tafshin Yud Beis and Tafshin Yud Gimel, that this is the concept of Moichin of Yanika, that there is revelation of the intellect and the revelation of emotions, as we explained in yesterday's segment at length, that he's contemplating how the world comes from the very infinite. The Eibishter concentrates that there should be a world in which you feel that there's tachtoinim, which has to be a tzimtzum. So if that's the case, so the question is, if that's the case, why do we call it Yanika and why don't we refer to it as Moichin? And the Rebbe Rashab explains that is because during the revelation of the love, of the emotion, at that time the intellect is concealed, and what remains in the emotion, only a little of that intellect. And that's the concept of Yanika. It's not the essence of the thing, it's merely a reflection. Being that the contemplation is in the godly light that is connected to the world, which general is the level of intellect, which has a connection to emotions, this grasp is in the garments of grasping, because this grasp and contemplation has to be an intellectual concept that necessitate how it is that, as explained elsewhere at length. So therefore, the revelation, the way it is in the intellect, doesn't shine in the heart. It doesn't radiate in the heart. So the arousal of the emotions is only from the conclusion. That the conclusion is, so therefore you should love God. So therefore you should be in awe of God. So therefore the consequence of the emotions is merely from the conclusion. Therefore it's called Yanika, it's merely reflection. And therefore, really, this emotion that's aroused from this is a felt emotion. Because, why do you feel the emotion? Because there's not a tremendous light and revelation from the intellect. If there was tremendous light and revelation from the intellect would overpower the emotion to such a degree you wouldn't feel the emotion at all. And yet, there is in it light and vitality, even though there's not so much light, because the conclusion is the conclusion which comes from this consequence. That's the reason for this emotion, and this is what we refer to as moichin shebamidos, the intellect within the emotions, as explained elsewhere. So, in addition to the fact that this conclusion is the reason to the emotion, so this radiates in a very clear way in the heart, there's also the light of the intellect which merely hovers over the emotion from above. Meaning that even during the excitement of the emotion, we feel in a concealed way this grasp and contemplation from which we became excited with love. And this accomplishes that the emotion should be nullified. That even while you're having the emotion, you're not jumping on the table, you're not getting out of yourself. Because from an emotion, there could be a yanika to the other side, God forbid. And as it says, the Pasuk says in Mishlei, Lo yachpoi tzchulu bizgalus liboy, that God does not want, the end result is not the revelation of one's heart. Because it's possible, why not? Why isn't it exciting for a person to be very excited? Because if a person could be excited, so from too much excitement, he can fall into the opposite of godliness. In other words, even in emotions which come originally from intellect, being that what shines during the revelation of the emotion only the conclusion, and so and it's in an emotion that's felt, so there could be an afila, you can fall and get out of hand. So, but through feeling the grasp, the contemplation, even if you're feeling it only in a concealed way, this accomplishes that this emotion should be totally nullified. To summarize both prakim, what we said yesterday and today, what is Yanika? Yanika means that the emotions are according to intellect. It's a contemplation in the greatness of God. Marabu masecha, how great are your deeds. Magodlu masecha. Magodlu means the fact that it's also in quantity, and also in quality, that they understand godliness. Marab Masecha means that there's a lot of quantity, and Magodlu means that they're so great that there's even, not only are there animals that feel themselves mainly, but even there's the sun and the moon and the Galgalim of the sun and the moon that recognize the Eibishter, and especially the angels and the Neshamas, and that the Hisavos, the coming into existence of a yesh, of an ego, is in the power of the infinite. And therefore, there is in this the two opposites of kiruv. On the one hand, there's closeness, because only the Eibishter himself can bring that there should be a yesh. And on the other hand, it's tzrichuk, that it's distant from us. And this is the contemplation of the godly reflection in the worlds. And what shines, only the conclusion shines radiates in the heart. Nevertheless, there's in it light, and also the light of the intellect hovers over the emotions, and this accomplishes that the emotions should be nullified towards the intellect and not got out of hand.